Hi, and welcome back to the HE Enabled podcast. I'm Cath, and it is good to be back. I've had an unexpected hiatus over the past month due to various health and life reasons, including graduation, yay. But I'm excited to be back with new content for HE Enabled for the foreseeable future. This week, I am bringing back the ADHD survival guide briefly, just in time for A-level results day. Now, some of you may know that it is A-level results day this Thursday, so the 14th of August 2025. This is the day where most college and sixth form pupils in England get their exam results and find out what their next steps are. This can be university, an apprenticeship, work, or something else. Whatever it is, waiting for these results can be incredibly difficult for many because of the future prospects that they represent. Many future plans are based on achieving particular results. Therefore, it's not surprising when I say that the wait for those results can be especially hard for neurodiverse people, especially those, such as myself, with ADHD, who can struggle with waiting, uncertainty, feelings of overwhelm, and managing symptoms of anxiety. This special episode of the ADHD Survival Guide will give tips and tricks for managing the run-up to results day, which can be a difficult few days for many. These tips are not medical advice, but rather come from my lived experience as a person with ADHD. There's no need to waste any more time, so let's get to it. First, know that your feelings around results day are totally valid. Whether you're excited and confident, or maybe not so sure on how well you've done, you are absolutely allowed to feel what you need to feel. The advice in this episode is wide-ranging to cover the needs for as many people as possible, and this can make it sound like I'm contradicting myself at times with my advice. This is mainly because at the end of the day, you're going to know yourself best, and these tips are kind of here to complement that. So use them as friendly advice instead of your gospel. Listen to yourself first, always. So, when it comes to results, people cope with waiting in different ways. Results day isn't going to come any faster or slower, regardless of how we cope with these. So, the feeling of an impending decision, which we have no control over, which is what it is, can become easily overwhelming and sometimes lead to unhealthy coping mechanisms. My personal favourite used to just be doom scrolling. I didn't like it. It wasn't really pleasant, and I was thinking about how I could have made that time easier for myself. I found that, looking back, one way I could have avoided this was being really proactive in creating what I like to call productive distractions for myself. So try it yourself, maybe, see if this works. Take some time to yourself or with others and create activities to take your mind at least a little bit away from things. Examples of good distractions include maybe a day out, a picnic, playing games, or reading. You can create activities for different energy and dopamine levels if these are known to change quite quickly or unpredictably for you. For example, I quite like to climb or do sport when I feel very high energy, and maybe read or do crafts when I feel a little more lethargic. Avoiding those tricky coping mechanisms like doom scrolling is hard to do perfectly, especially because they tend to be quite ingrained, and it's quite a high pressure time, so you tend to rely on your defaults a lot more, which sometimes are those poor coping mechanisms. But if you're really proactively trying to distract yourself even a little bit, it's going to be healthier than not trying at all and kind of falling into a void of those unhealthy coping mechanisms. But here comes the contradiction. We can't only use distraction to keep results day stress away. Folks with ADHD can struggle with interoception, which is one's ability to identify and process emotions. And this can make it super beneficial to take some time to process your emotions and identify how you're feeling, because otherwise we might not do it naturally. Personally, I like to use guided meditations for this, though you might prefer doing something more active. I think that was a scientific study where people kind of found their zen in doing crafts or exercises and doing something kind of with their hands so that the thought could kind of process while they were moving. As long as the activity that you are doing is one which lets you think freely and process your emotions without judgment, it can help you immensely. Holding in emotions until you pop is not productive. As you can imagine, that can probably lead to some outbursts. And it always does more harm than good for your mental health by keeping these things in. I really like journaling as well. I think it's a really good thing for it. I've preached its benefits in the past. If you're feeling really stuck, there's usually bags of journaling prompts online that you can try. So these are kind of the things that we can do for ourselves. But one thing I actually really want to touch on is support systems. So during a stressful time such as results season, it's important that you feel validated and surrounded by people with your best interests at heart. Support systems, I define them as individuals or groups of people who you trust to support you and you can talk freely to when you need it. This could be family, friends, or other important people in your life. It could even be a pet if you think they would help you to process things. Use your support networks to talk, do activities, and generally help you to stay in good a headspace as you can. Maybe it's even time to reach out to that friend you haven't spoken to in a little while. When you are talking to people though, just be mindful that some people, especially classmates or other people your age, might not want to talk about results day. This can be for a variety of reasons, and we don't really know, we don't know what's going on in other people's heads. And it means that these boundaries should absolutely be respected. Because if you keep bringing something up and you're crossing that boundary, it can end up doing more harm than good, even if you have the best intentions at heart. If you are genuinely concerned about someone, then use your discretion to provide support to them in other ways, even if it's just sitting with them or giving them resources. But don't cross their boundaries and make them uncomfortable. But the flip side is also true. If someone is talking about something you're uncomfortable with, including results day, and you don't particularly want to hear anything about it in the moment, there's nothing wrong with politely declining the discussion and asking to change the topic. Your support network should exist to help you, not to raise the intensity of your negative emotions. Keep that in mind when making a support system which works for you. Now, I know that for many, these support networks are not only kind of in-person and physical, but they can also be found in the digital realm in the form of direct messages, social media, and online forums. And don't get me wrong, you can get a lot of valid support through online content, and I am not here to devalue that. I have many, many online friends. What I am encouraging you to do is to be mindful of the content which you are consuming in the run-up to results day. Social media spaces are massively biased towards showing only the absolute best or the worst of things. And sometimes that includes showing people under an unhealthy amount of stress, and observing that might not be the best thing. Now, social media is an integral part of our lives, and looking at some content in moderation, respecting your own boundaries is obviously totally fine. But doom scrolling results day stories, reactions, and news headlines for hours on end, it just places you in a feedback loop that can be very mentally hard to escape from. And it can also just exacerbate things that you're already feeling right and feel like it's validating you. It can lead to undue fear about results, thinking about the future or anything else that might be relevant to you, those kind of feelings that will bring up. One solution to this, if you're really struggling to set boundaries, might be to assign some phone-free time that you either enforce with an app or, someone might just physically take your phone from you if you're comfortable with that, or leave it in a different part of your abode. And engage in some of that productive time away from screens or with your friends and family, like I mentioned earlier. I promise you, at least in some way, it will help to disengage. If you're really not sure about how to manage your well-being, I have additional tips about this on an earlier ADHD survival guide to well-being. It's way back at the start of the show, but there's not many episodes. It's pretty easy to find. And I really encourage you to check it out if you feel like you need it. It's a resource and that's what it's there for, you know? So we've kind of established the cornerstones of well-being now, right? We want to have just good things around us. The next couple of tips kind of concern themselves with practical things that you can do immediately before results day. Ironically, this is also a well-being thing, actually. The first one is to just keep a healthy sleep routine as much as you can. It's definitely harder to manage a sleep routine at the best of times with ADHD, but it's also harder to manage an unrested ADHD brain compared to a rested one. And having this rest helps so much with emotional processing, nervous system regulation, and overall mood. Try your best. I know this can be a tall ask. Try your best to go to sleep at the same time each night and keep the same routine. Try and wake up at the same time every morning if you can as well. This might make it easier to sleep closer to results day despite the stress, because you'll kind of be in that routine. Now, I appreciate that this episode might have come a bit late for that, for various reasons, but this can also be used if you're facing stress in the future. So, try and go to sleep at the same time every night. If you are really stuck to get to sleep, try some calming activities. And again, I have an ADHD survival guide on sleep way back at the start of the show. And I really encourage you to give it a listen if you think that it's something you're struggling with and you might want a little more advice. As an aside, drinking water and sunlight exposure during the day are also really important for regulating a brain, especially during stressful times. Use this knowledge to your advantage and try and just do right by yourself in the run-up to results day. So, next, it's really important practically to feel secure in your next steps, whatever the outcome. It is, after you've done it and after the fact and many years later, very easy to say, results day doesn't even matter that much in the grand scheme of things. And I would be uniquely qualified to say that as someone who both got a C in A-level and has an Oxford degree. But frankly, it's not a helpful thing to say. Results day is going to be taking up a fair amount of mental real estate whether we like it or not. So while putting things into perspective can be useful, I personally find it more helpful to be proactive in how we face results day. So there's just fewer factors to be overwhelmed by, right? With this in mind, I would highly encourage you to give yourself some peace of mind and research alternative courses so that you know what places to call first if things don't go as planned on results day. Knowledge is absolutely power. Find course codes, course names, phone numbers, and have a plan of action for what will happen if you end up going through clearing or even self-releasing into clearing. You might get, unfortunately, rejected. It's not, statistically, it's not certain. It does happen to some people. You might even get better grades than you thought, and you want to release into a better university through clearing. What I am going to do, just so you can prepare yourself super well, and so that you can think about, as a disabled student, what you might need for yourself and what you should look out for when you're kind of preparing yourself for results day. Is I'm going to link some resources from UCAS in the description of this show, which will include some things about results day, what to look for in a university for getting reasonable adjustments, some notes on disabled students allowance, and if you're looking for any other resources, I cannot recommend UCAS's website enough. They kind of know their demographic, right? And they work with as much as they can to help people. But there is one more thing that I want to mention, and it is because I know how stressful exams and waiting for results can be. Do not, under any circumstance, feel like you need to suffer in silence if you are struggling. Waiting for results is inherently nerve-wracking. And for those of us with ADHD brains, symptoms of anxiety, depression, and feelings of overwhelm, even sensory stuff, they're more likely to show themselves during stressful times. I also feel like a lot of neurodiverse people, including myself, don't reach out to mental health services enough because we feel like our issues either aren't severe enough or that by getting ourselves help, we are depriving someone else of that opportunity. I just want to say, if you feel like you're struggling, regardless of how severe you think it is, you are entitled to get the help that you need. It isn't even a matter of being selfish. You're using a resource that has been made to help people. By using it, you are going to show that there is a need for it. This will help keep necessary services running in the future for those who need it. And that really makes me think that reaching out for help is a wonderful, selfless act. If you feel like you need help, once again, I've put some links from Mind and Action for Children in the description of the show. So all you have to do is click through and work out what support you need if you need it. I'm going to leave it there. That's all from me today. I hope that you found at least some of these tips useful and will be able to use them for Results Day and beyond. Leave a comment if you found them useful, share them if you think they'll help someone else. If you're listening to this, you're probably waiting to get your results in a couple days. HE Enabled is a resource that's made for people. Part of this is the ADHD survival guide that you're listening to now. HE Enabled is a platform for those with disabilities, long-term health conditions, and neurodiversities to share their story of the British higher education system. I hope that you will be able to join me in the coming weeks as more people share their stories. Thank you so much for listening, and best of luck with Results Day.